clubs, or arts clubs, or struggling clubs. We're proud of all our clubs. So thank you for your work in your club, providing an environment where our members can develop the communication and leadership skills. Thank you for your pride in your club. That's the point of the exercise. Now we're going to talk about developing leadership skills, but first we need to establish management and leadership. Would you agree management and leadership are different skills? Yes. Here's the best definition, or half a definition, that I found about management and leadership. So half of it's on the screen. Some of you have already finished off the second half. I'm going to tell you the second half of this as we proceed. So Peter Drucker's a very smart man who's written extensively about leadership. He said, management is about the organization today. Management is about the organization today. So the second half is leadership is about the organization. Exactly. Management about the organization today, leadership about the organization tomorrow. What does that say about leaders?
Visionary.
Visionary. Forward thinking. Motivators, developers of people. Yeah, you've got it exactly. Strategic, absolutely. So we're going to have some people serving some meals during this conference. So that's an interesting process to think about, because when they're serving meals to us, that's about management. It's about taking care of business during the day. Get the plate served. When they're done, get them clear. Get dessert out there. Get the cleared, pour coffee, pour tea. That's management. You need to be effective at the things that need to take place immediately. Leadership kicks in when the leader sits back and said, oh, this server was a little slow in this area, needs some coaching or mentoring. Or this server was quite strong and is ready for a new stretch objective. So leadership takes place later. So both are required. Some people are stronger at management than leadership. You've probably had some effective managers who weren't effective leaders, am I right? Yeah, absolutely. And some leaders are thought to be not effective managers. Bill Clinton, the former President of the United States, was thought to be a great leader, but day to day was just kind of a disaster as a manager. So we need both skills in organizations. We all need both skills individually, but management tends to be taking care of the day to day. Leadership is about preparing for tomorrow. So when I read about leadership, there's so much written about leadership, so many videos, so many books. It boils down to two things. Leaders develop people, they achieve results. In the most recent Toastmaster magazine, November magazine, I wrote a viewpoint about the habit of achieving results. And I hope as leaders in this organization, you're successful at achieving Distinguished Club. That's just a habit of achievement that is so powerful to get into. It's a habit that will serve you in any role you happen to take on. And some of you, I'm going to assume, have worked for leaders who were good at achieving results and not developing people. That's a wry laugh. What was that like?
Well, it was pressure.
A lot of pressure, right? So there's a lot of pressure when you have a leader who's strong at achieving results, not at developing people. It's no fun. Get things done, but don't develop people. Has anyone worked for a leader who's been good at developing people, not achieving results? Yes. What was that like? Probably pretty fun for a short time until they were fired. Because in the real world, if you're good at developing people, providing courses, having celebratory parties, but you don't get results, you don't stick around in the real world. So that's the reality. We've got the opportunity at Toastmasters to practice these skills. We can develop people and achieve results. And those are the skills that are valued in the real world. So I hope you can take the opportunity to practice and deliver on both of those. Looked to me like a bus came in or a train just arrived. More people arriving. Okay, there's so much written about leadership, many theories about leadership around charisma and competencies. I like the contingency theory, which says there's no one right way to lead people, but there's one called Situational Leadership by Ken Blanchard, and I'm going to take you through this model. But I think it's very helpful for people in thinking about how to work with people. I'll put that slide in now, actually. So Ken Blanchard said, the leader's behavior needs to adapt based on the task maturity of the follower. The leader behavior needs to adapt based on the task maturity of the follower. So the brilliance in this is, it's not the general maturity, it's the task maturity. So let's think of an example here. I'll go through this first actually. So Ken Blanchard says if the task maturity is low, you need to tell somebody what to do, and that's not demeaning, that's just recognizing that they've got no experience. As their skill develops, you need to sell them on their capabilities, on them getting better and developing. Eventually, you can just delegate when they're fully task mature. And in the middle point there, you can participate with them. So I'll give you an example of what that sounds like. Participating, you're trying to determine, look, are they just kind of going through the job I wrote, or are they really starting to think about how to develop? So that's a way of assessing the maturity of a particular task. So here's an example. Give me a name of a great speaker who's not a Toastmaster. You have to be a Toastmaster to be a great speaker? I'm sorry? Obama. Usually Obama comes up, or Tony Robbins, so that's great. So Obama. So let's say Obama, he's going to retire in, January 2017, and he comes and he joins your Toastmaster Club. Would that be good? That would be good. So you say, Mr. Obama, I want you to be timer. What's his task maturity? Really low. So you need to tell him, okay, Mr. Obama, have you worked the stopwatch before? You press this button, and then you turn this stop, and then you reset here. That's 1 minute for tabletop, we should put up the green card, and 90 seconds the yellow card. That's the yellow card, 2 minutes. Have you got that, Mr. Obama? You can tell him what to do. It's not demeaning, it's reflective of task maturity. And the next time in a month, you ask him to be timer again, you say, oh, you did that so well last time. Can you remind me how that works? You okay with the stopwatch? So you get his confidence growing. And as he continues to develop, maybe you'd say, maybe you'd be in this audience, a similar audience edition, you'd say, look, I need someone to time this event so Jim doesn't go over time. So can you, how do you think we should set up? What's the best place to set up so Jim spends some time in cards? So you're trying to assess, is he thinking about the environment, or is he just becoming skilled at raising cards and pressing buttons? And finally, when he's fully mature, you could say, look, I need to get a timer in that room. I don't have time to figure that out. Can you just get in there and take care of the timing? So that's taking somebody through assessing task maturity. So does that make sense? Okay. Does it sound like I know what I'm talking about? Serious
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Well, I'm going to tell you how I'm familiar with this. I understand the theory. I've done this very well, and I messed up badly. Okay, so here's maybe some of you know, this is the gentleman who was successful in the sport of curling in the Olympics. The guy in the middle is named Jamie Corrab. So he's on a curling team in Canada, and he won the gold medal in curling, that's sport on ice, in Italy in 2008. So this story relates to my work with the St. John Board of Trade, where I chaired a committee, and we decided to hold a luncheon at one point. It was for some school kids and members of the Board of Trade, so adults and school kids. In Canada, we have something called Take Our Kids to Work Day. Is that familiar at all here? Yes, I see some nods. Okay, well, the idea is kids in grade 9, they get to pair up with a parent or a friend or a relative and say to little kids, I really want to be an accountant. Say, okay, we'll take you go with your dad to see what an accountant does all day. Or a car mechanic or an airplane mechanic, you take your kids to work. The reality of that is around lunchtime they get really bored. So we decided as a Board of Trade to run a luncheon where we have a motivational speaker for the kids, relevant for the Board of Trade members. We raised some money for the Board of Trade. So it was a nice event. We ended up running it 4 or 5 years. So in this situation, I was chair of this trial, and I had arranged for this speaker, who's owner of a gold medal, highly successful, relevant to the kids. We had a venue booked, we knew the date, and there was a friend of mine working on the committee, his name was Trade Vickers. And it was a full trade, I said, Trade, I'm going to be traveling the world, and I want to tell the story. In the story, put us straight in a bad spot, me in a bad spot to some extent. He says, no, I'll tell you a story, I wish I'd done things differently. I wish I'd done things differently. Some other people as well. So I turned to Trade, who I'd worked with before. He was always very successful, general maturity very high. And I said to Trade, we have the speaker, we have the venue, we have the date. Can you decide on the ticket price, on the promotion, on the agenda? Can you get some sponsors? We need $5,000 in sponsors to make this a reality. Can you go and do that? So based on the situational leadership model, what was my assumption about his task maturity? High. What was it in actuality? Low. You know what I learned about that? Way too late. So here's how that happened. So I assumed a high level of task maturity based on past performance in other areas. As like a good delegator, I'd call him every 3 weeks, and he had started a new job and he had remarried. I'd say, how's the job? How's the family? How are we doing for sponsors? I'd say, that's, the family's good, job is good, and there's a couple of companies interested in sponsoring. And I'd say, that's great. And I'd call again in a few weeks, go through the same dialogue. How are we doing for sponsorships? Well, there's another company interested in sponsoring. This is sounding fabulous. And I'd call him another 3 weeks, and I'd say the same thing. And he'd say, there's another couple of companies interested in sponsoring. This is going to be fantastic. So finally in September, the event was going to be in November. In September, I realized there was a question I wasn't asking, and I said, well, how many of these companies are committed? 0. So my stomach just dropped. There's another theory about how your general management style. I'm called an amiable. Everything's easy, it's fun, we make things look easy. When I'm under stress, I go to driver mode. In driver mode sounds like, I will take the wheel now, thank you. It's my turn, I will take the wheel. So I said to Trig on this day, we're gonna have a conference call Thursday. Are you available Thursday? All right, we're gonna get your committee together on a call. We'll find out who they reached out to, who's possibly gonna sponsor. We'll add to the list and see if we can get enough sponsorship money to make it happen. And I didn't think we could make it happen. From September to November was about 7 weeks. Business budgets, their dollars very early in the year, so I thought we were in big trouble, and I was going to have to call Jamie Korab and say, cancel your flights, yes, we'll pay the fees. It was not a good feeling. But the team came together, and we were able to find the money to sponsor. And Jamie Korab came over. That was nerve-wracking too, I was telling you, because I live in the 3rd foggiest city in Canada. Jamie lives in the 1st foggiest city in Canada. The event was at lunchtime. He was getting on a plane at 5:30 in the morning, big risk. But he got on a plane, he crushed his little finger on a little tray, the tray that we served. So he had a big bandage on, there was a doctor on the flight. He looked as pale as a ghost, I thought he was going to faint. But he came and he did the speech, and kids were so excited to meet him. There's a lot of kids who curl in Canada, and here's a guy with a gold medal, and he gave a speech, and he talked about growing up in Newfoundland in Canada, which is very small. It's a province of 500,000 people in the middle of the ocean. And they're not expected to perform well in Canadian sports. They were not expected to win the prize for Canada. Once they won Canada, they're expected to win the world. That's the way we work when it comes to hockey and curling. And they did. They won a gold medal. So he finished his speech and he hauled out his gold medal and said on this date in 2008 in Italy, he won a gold medal. So it ended extremely well. And then at the end of the session, the kids came up and he let them wear the medal, and business people came up and they wore the medal and they took all kinds of photos. So it turned out exceptional. So I tell you that story not because I want you thinking that I stepped in and I was the hero. I'm telling you that story because I know about delegation, and I've delegated very well, and I messed up big time, and I put Trig in a position where he could have failed publicly because I was sloppy in that assessment. So what I learned personally is if I'm too familiar with somebody, I'll just make some assumptions. So now I need to make sure that I go through that little assessment. What's their task maturity? And that's a conversation. You know, what is their skill level? And we could have done a much better job at taking a lot of drama out of that situation. So that's why I tell the story to get you thinking about exercising your skills in Toastmasters. Just put yourself in situations, I suppose, in Toastmasters or outside Toastmasters, where you're going to test your skills and your capabilities. And you'll make some assumptions about the things you're good at. You will make some mistakes. And I'd rather learn in a volunteer organization than in an organization where I might be fired. I don't know about you, but that's my inclination. So what I'm going to do next is let's have a little bit of dialogue on this. What's the time I need to be done here? 4:30? I think you the next event is 4:30? Okay, all right. Okay, so 4:50. All right, well let's have a little bit of a discussion on this. So I'd like you to just talk amongst yourself for about 2 or 3 minutes on this topic. Do you believe that this is true? There can be no achievement without goals. There can be no achievement without goals. Just talk amongst yourself for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to look for the 2 or 3 best responses to that. Okay? Just talking in little groups here.
only have a goal which is participation. Let's say you want to do a speech contest. You do that because the goal is participation. And then you achieve maybe number one. But that's a bonus.
That's the bonus, okay. So,
That's it.
So it is important to have a goal. Okay, someone else? I'm going to take two more answers. First over here in the red. And then we're going to the back of the room.
Hi. We both took over a club as president,
Yes.
and one was a successful club and one was a failing club. And we concentrated on objectives. In my case, it was a very successful club, and DCP there wasn't any question. It was such a successful club, and we now already have 9 points, for example. But there were other things, and membership attendance, membership turnover, the time to turn a guest into a member. These were very important points. Let me hand over quickly.
Well, does this answer the question? There can be no achievement of goals? Is it related to this? Okay. Okay.
Okay, we achieved.
Okay, so you did have a goal and you achieved it.
Set the goals
I
we
see.
achieved.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed. I'm trying
Good
to.
go. One more in the back of the room.
We just agreed, I'm in District 59, so I have a very weak, I'm a president of a very weak Luxembourg club, a French club,
Okay.
and we're both club presidents, and we agreed that DCP goals are not enough.
Okay.
So we also concentrate on membership attendance, getting new members on board, checking on the turnover, making sure that there's a mentor that will follow up on the new member.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to the room. There's a very young Toastmaster in the back. You see him back there? We're going to get his opinion. I think he's going to have the final word on this. What do you say, young man?
I'm Nico, and I think that you can achieve things, but only for a short time.
Short time. That's a good answer, Nico. Wow. All right, so here's what the theory says. Theory says you can only achieve if you set a goal. And I'll give you a couple of examples from my life. So I've earned 2 DTMs. Some people think that's a lot, some people think that's not a lot. But the first one, I set out a plan and I worked hard and I had to get such and such by a date and I worked hard and felt a huge sense of achievement. The second one, I looked one day and I said, oh, I've only got to do 3 or 4 other things. Well, I might as well progress and get that second DTM. So I kind of fell into it. And it was not the same sense of achievement. So most of the theory would say, look, without having set a goal, you might reach the level of success, but you wouldn't feel the same level of achievement. So you can debate that for a long time, but most of the theory will say you can't have the same sense of achievement unless you set a goal. And you know that within Toastmasters, the answer to these questions are all the same. To be a club, you may have some additional goals, but at least please be distinguished. That develops a habit of success. The habit of success gets your club in the habit of being at least distinguished or select or presidents. That's wonderful discipline that serves you in many, many areas of your life. The habit of achievement. Ooh. Now what I'm going to do next, this is an exercise in leadership communication. So it's a little exercise I'm going to do, and I'm going to look for 3 volunteers to come up here, and I've got some song titles from Eurovision. Is that the name of the competition? Yeah. So from around the 2000 mark to 2010, I think they are. And I'm going to get somebody up here to tap out a song. Here's what Happy Birthday would sound like. You hear that? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to select a song title together. I'm going to get 2 people to sit here. They're not going to see the titles. One talented drummer is going to come up here, tap out this Eurovision song. And then these 2 people are going to say, I know that song. Here's the name, here's the title. And we're going to applaud wildly. Make sense? Who wants to be the drummer? Who knows the Eurovision song? Yeah? Come on. All right.
I'm sure I know the song, but
Okay. You never really, right? What's your name? Stephanie from Prague. Okay. Who would like to be the people who guess the titles? You familiar with your Eurovision songs from 2000 or so? No. See, that would be cheating, Chris. I've done this before, but that would be who would be familiar with some of these songs? I've seen two people point at one another. What do you do in that situation? You get both? Would you like to both come forward? And Nicole. Come forward. You can come forward anyway. Nice experience for you. And who do we have here? What's your name, sir? Hey, you came that earlier? Anna? Nicole. Okay, you sit there on this side. So I don't want you to read out these titles, right? Because this is a guessing game, so please don't say it out loud. And I'm going to flip forward to find these titles. Here we go. So, here's some titles. I know none of these songs, I must admit. Stephanie? You don't know these songs. Uh-oh. Oh, you know one of them? You know one of them? Okay, would you like to come forward? Would you be my drum? Sorry, Stephanie. Thank you. Hello! And your name is? Barbara. Where are you from? Poland. All right, Barbara from Poland. So Barbara's going to tap out the words to this song, and then our guests here, our three guests, are going to tell us the title. Could you tap that out for us? Number 2. So don't say the title, please. Here we go with Barbara's debut. How's that? Good? And so what's the name of that song? Would you like to hear it again?
Yes, yes.
Okay. We're going to hear another rendition from Barbara. Go, do it all. Let's help them. And if you know the song, you can hum along. I see a few people dancing. That's good. Thank you, Barbara. How?
Can you have a decade, please?
What was the decade? What was it? What year was that?
I think it's like 2008.
There you go.
I'm not sure, but
This is her. This is a typical result. Thank you. Anna? Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
there you go.
It is Alexander Rybak, Fairy Tale. You get it? No, you don't. So this is what typically happens. So this study called the Tapper study, this lady at Stanford University, I'm going to go back to these slides. This lady did the study. So she took very familiar songs and she's had people tap it out. And typically in the audience, people go, yeah, that's it, I got it. They're nodding along. The rhythm might be a little off, but they can follow along. The people sitting here usually don't get it. Sometimes they do get it. That happened to me in Toronto, actually, in District 60 just a couple of weeks ago. But the key thing here is most people will not get it. Even the most familiar songs, people will tap out the words, and the people can't guess. So this lady's brilliant. She said the reason that the audience gets it is they can load the song in their head. Once you know the title, you kind of load the rhythm and the words, and somebody taps along, and you can follow the words very successfully. The people here are trying to get the song in their head without any clues. They're trying to just give me something, give me some context. So from a leadership behavior, have you been in an audience when someone's been up for speaking and seen people in the audience had the song in their head, but you did not? people are nodding and somebody's speaking, saying, here's our objectives, here's why this is important to us, and you're just sitting back saying, I don't understand, I don't understand how this fits together. Have you experienced something like that? I'm hearing some wry laughs as well. Yeah, it's a pretty common experience. So the key point is, it's our job as leaders to do all we can to make sure every member of the audience can get the song in their head. So what that sounds like, look, here's our situation, here are the alternatives we considered, here's the direction we're going, here's the progress we made, here's some people that are going to help us be successful, here's the behaviors that are going to lead to success. So leader speeches continue to be around that. We need to repeat and repeat and repeat until everybody's got the song in their head of the direction. So you're talking to being this distinguished club, early in the year you say, look, there's 10 goals. We want to reach at least 5 of them, maybe you want to reach all 9 of them. That means we need to attract new members, we need people achieving educational goals, we need to attend training. It's about telling them the progress and why it's important and how that helps your club be successful. And then as the year progresses, maybe you've got no educational awards, but you can recognize, one of our members has now completed 6 speeches, 7 speeches. She's on a path to achieve a Competent Communicator Award. That will help us be successful as a distinguished club. So it's repetition, repetition, repetition. And sometimes you feel like you're saying the same thing repeatedly and repeatedly, but you change it up a little bit, but it's important that everybody, as much as possible, has a song in their head. Does that make sense? Yeah. Not everybody will get the song in their head. People are distracted in any audience of people thinking, look, I've got my kid with the babysitter, I need to get home, we work 10 o'clock, and I've got a parent who's ill, or I've got a big job to complete on Monday. People get distracted, so they won't get the song in their head. It's our job as leaders to do all we can to make sure they do get their song in their head. So one way I like to test that, when someone's done a presentation in other environments, I'll go and say, well, I told you what some of the objectives, which do you think will be the most difficult to achieve? And that's a good way to test to see, were they listening, are they getting it, are they engaged, do they have this song in their head? If you want your team to be successful, everybody needs to have the song in their head. Okay. Just a couple of slides to wrap up here, and I just like this one because it's some excellent tips and ever so simple. I like simplicity and structure. So this comes from Harvard Business Review. They've got a wonderful email they send every day, and sometimes it's gold and sometimes it's not so good. But this one's very good. It's about delegating. So if you're feeling stressed by everything that you need to do, they suggest, look, just list everything that's causing you to spend significant time at your volunteer work or your other work. And then they indicate, just take the ones that require your skill or your level of authority. There's things I cannot delegate as international president, I cannot delegate. There's things in your position you cannot delegate. And then you've got a list of things that other people can accomplish with some training and some coaching and mentoring. So at that point you can decide, look, can I already delegate this? And again, considering that situational leadership model. Sometimes that will take some coaching on your part, but it might be an investment for your future. If I coach a pet room today on something in the next few weeks, then that might cost me a little bit of time in the short term, but in the long term, that's going to save me some time and energy. So you decide if it's worth that investment. And the final tip is keep what makes you happy, and I think that's just brilliant, because if you give, I've done it. I've given away things that I don't think anybody can do better.
The Toastmasters International President, Mr. Jim Kokocki.